And if anybody's been watching the TV lately, there have been ads from the RFS about a new fire warning system, and as part of a larger system called the Australian Warning System. Here to tell us all about that, if you happen to be watching the TV or planning to go away on the school holidays, we've got Warren Smith here from the RIDE SES to tell us all about the Australian Warning System. Morning, Warren.
Good morning, Lindsay, and good morning, listeners.
Warren, thank you very much for being with us. Folks, if you're planning on going away for the school holidays this January and you want to plan your trip ahead of time, you look on the fire warnings from the RFS, and if you go to the SES website, you can check out for flood and tsunami warnings. You will see a map on the front page of each of those websites and with little triangles in there indicating where there's danger.
Yep.
And in various levels of yellow, orange and red.
Correct. If there's no triangle, then there's no hazard. For your listeners, Lindsay, that if they were going to go on holidays, if they were to go onto the New South Wales SES website...
Yeah, I should have asked, how does this apply to people?
Yeah, well, this is a practical way, I guess, because the old warning systems were very complicated, whereas this is a much simpler, task-orientated for the average resident. Back last year, in September, they changed from a state-by-state risk warning system, and this is now a standard Australian warning system, eventually go across all emergency services and all hazards. It's in a process of being rolled out at the moment. So say you're going on holidays, you could go on to the New South Wales SES website on the front page, or if you went on to the New South Wales RFS website, on their front page you'll see a map with all these triangles dotted over it. So say you were going to outback to say, you know that there's floods, you've seen them on the news, you could actually go and find out the specifics. And with this system, it's much more location orientated. The old system was a river system, so it could be an expansive area. Now you'll be able to find out much more, drilled down to even what streets are flooding.
Right, so I've just had a look on the websites. Now, in the RFS case, they have little triangles over the map of New South Wales indicating where there might be a fire. And if I go to the SES website, you've got little triangles indicating where there might be a flood or a tsunami.
Yep. So, say, obviously I'm more interested because I'm SES, we look after flood storms and tsunami. But say with a flood, you can look on that map, but you can zoom in and you say, well, this is where I'm heading, or I'm going to go through this town. Well, you can find out what streets are affected and what you've got to do to minimise your risk.
Okay. So in various places like websites and so forth, you'll see what you call hazard triangles?
I guess, we call hazard icons. The icons will all be the same, be the yellow, orange or red, and then in the centre of that triangle, depending what the hazard is, so say for a flood, it's a picture of a little house with a bit of water underneath it. A bushfire is it's like a flame in the middle. Tsunami is like a curving wave, and there's more of these will be rolled out over the next 1 to 2 years. If it's a yellow, it means it's a device, so it's raising the awareness that something's happening. Then there's the orange, which means it's a watch and act. So you heightened risk so that you should be starting to do something, take some sort of action. And then, of course, the red it's an emergency warning, and so you really are in serious situation. So if it was like a flood, for an example, we know that the rivers are rising, and then once it goes to an orange, watch and act, then certain areas of people might have to start to evacuate or prepare to evacuate. And then once it goes to the red, the emergency warning, well, they've either got to move to a higher location or evacuate.
Right, so if I see a yellow triangle, then I've got to be careful that there could be something happening.
Correct.
And if there's an orange one, I've got to be really alert that something is about to happen. And if there's a red triangle, it means get out of there.
Yeah, or if hopefully you've acted on the orange and say you've already got out of a high-risk situation. Sometimes, unfortunately, people, if it's a flash flood, they'll have to crawl on top of their roof or to a top of a sturdy building or something like that. But what we always encourage is, because never to ride or walk in flood water, so we'd want you out well ahead of time.
In the case of a flash flood, though, does it go always from the yellow to the orange to the red?
No, Lindsay. This is the thing with this, is that, say you've already your street's been impacted by a flood, but then the actual will drop levels, and so it might go back to an orange or a yellow. So an example of a yellow after you've been flooded would be to return with caution.
So it could come back.
Yep.
So things go up and down.
Correct.
So you could get flooded once, but you could get flooded twice.
Absolutely. I've been to a lot of flooded towns, and the river surge can come down. Say the Lachlan. I've been on the Lachlan many times, and that's flooded because of a dam release, and so they do another release later on, and so it all happens a second time.
Right. Okay.
But one of the things I've got to stress, if you are driving, never drive in floodwater. I've quite experienced in floods, and all too often people get into awful, and you can lose your life. And don't only do it for yourself, do it for your family and those people in your vehicle. Don't ever take the risk. It's a tragedy. This can unfold.
And of course, because there's always the danger too of putting your rescuer at risk as well.
Correct. It's a high risk thing. Our SES flood technicians are highly trained. It's a high risk task they do. They do it for free. We're all volunteers, but we would prefer them to be on land and not doing anything than coming to rescue someone. And it rests with you as the resident. Don't put yourself in that risk in the first place.
All right, well, with all that advice of the new Australian warning system, which is an Australia-wide system now of yellow, orange and red warnings, thank you, Warren Smith of the Right SES.
Thank you, Lindsay, and be safe, residents, and please never drive in floodwater.